Welcome to FFC Top 3, a show where we, your FFC hosts, count things down from 3 to number 1. Thank you for joining us this week. If you have a suggestion for Top 3, be sure to drop us a note on Twitter at FocusFireChat, in our Discord, or even email us at FocusFireChat@gmail.com. This week, we are going to discuss our top 3 RPGs, and spoiler alert, I think I know blues. But we have a special guest with us this week. We have Mr. InfestedPotato, the EMT extraordinaire / Halloween man. He is with us, and he's going to talk first. What's your number 3 RPG, Potato?
My number 3 RPG. I did the Flash version of this today, kind of going through the list of RPGs that I've ever played in my life, which, ironically, isn't too many of them. Or not ironic, sadly, maybe a better term. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be kind of a flash to the past here. It's a game called Overlord. And it was this really kind of funny RPG where you played as the bad guy and you had to like raise your minions. It was almost like
it was amazing.
Yeah, okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one that has played it. It was a lot of fun.
That game,
you played as like a dark evil lord and stuff like that. You know, and it was your job to like raise your minions, and your minions like served only you because you were like the evilest thing around, and you had to build your tower and like destroy villages and just do it. You all around just did like these evil things, like, you know, what is it? The first few missions you had to like kill a bunch of sheep and like raid this town or something like that. And it was just always
kill a bunch of sheep.
It was like sheep,
because you had to like ease your way into being the biggest baddest overlord.
Right.
Like it was like this,
you had to start
and
small.
the minions were freaking amazing.
What was like the guy who was like the eldest of the minions? They're in charge of all this, and then they come over here. They very much like to go out and do, you know. It was so funny. It was just such a fun game to play. And then they came out with the second one, and like you start off as like an evil little kid, like an evil dark lord, but you're wearing the helmet, like a Sauron helmet, the entire time.
Oh Lord. That reminds me of Castle Crashers a little bit, which is like the humor.
Yeah, a little bit. It was like 2007, I think, was Overlord. I don't remember the sequel here. I'll send you the picture, Green, so you can appreciate the humor that we're talking about.
Okay.
It was just such a clever game, and it was more like a little hack and slash, but it was kind of, you know, choose your own adventure kind of.
Gotcha.
It was a fun game.
Nice. I like the little goblin-y things.
Oh yeah, that's the minion. Those are the minions. Yeah.
Those are the minions.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, and it's just
looks
my
like
God,
Gremlins.
So yeah, they pretty much were. Was it Melvin Elderbelly? Was that who you're thinking?
Yeah.
No, wait, was that? I can't remember. Oh my God.
I'd have to go back.
I'm looking all this stuff. That brings me back. That's funny.
Yeah, there was a few on my list, but I was like, all right, I have to narrow this down to 3. This is going to be rough. So.
All right. Are most of yours, here's a question that's just going to throw everything off for a little bit. Are most of yours video game based, or are they other thing based? Because mine has one video game, one tabletop game, and one, 2 tabletop games, but one's a board game, one's not.
I actually haven't played too many tabletops.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to. It's just I never really had the community or the group to go. And I just or the time. So
yeah, it's a commitment. All right, Blue. Start us off, number 3.
My number 3 is actually a tie between the World of White Wolf and Wheel of Time. Both of them. Which one?
White Wolf.
White Wolf? Okay, so White Wolf is one of the ones that you really, like, your experience is really determined by how good of a GM you have, because it's very, very, very heavy on role-playing. It's not a hack and slash like D&D can be. It depends. You have to generally have a pretty mature team, and not mature in like older, but like a team that's comfortable role playing, which is something that's important. Wheel of Time is a D20 system. It's very similar to D&D 3.5. It's actually based off 3.5's mechanics, so it's pretty straightforward on that front. And it's just fun because you actually get to play within the world of Robert Jordan. But yeah, White Wolf, because the group that we played with, we were really familiar with each other, and we knew the archetypes that everyone kind of gravitated towards. So White Wolf doesn't really have like and White Wolf is like Mage, the Ascension, Werewolf, the Apocalypse, Vampire, the Masquerade, Hunter, all of those, and then each they have each iterations. You have like Werewolf, the Wild West, and all this different things. We usually played the modern setting. We did try to play some of their alternate reality ones, and they were okay. But we usually played Werewolf because that was the one that's what we gravitated towards, or Vampire. Those were the two. And so because our group always, we always had like the archetypes that we always went to, we didn't really require classes. So it made playing it a lot easier. Like it made the group a lot more cohesive just naturally because we knew what, we had a tank. The tank always wanted to play the tank character. So he built a tank werewolf or a tank vampire. Like that's what he built. And that's what he gauged it to. So we knew that was covered, so we didn't have to try to do like the skill monkey approach where everyone was everything. But yeah, so it was just, those worlds are just so, White Wolf does a really good job with creating like really potentially vivid worlds, I think. Mm-hmm. And they also do a really good job in integrating it into like the real world. Like that's one of the big things, especially Vampire the Masquerade. It's like huge on the politics and the involvement with real events. And so it makes it really easy to actually play a modern game with modern events going on. And I love that aspect of it.
Okay. It's the thing that always got me with that. I never played Werewolf. I never played Vampire the Masquerade. I never played the White Wolf system at all. I watched one game of it.
Oh, yeah, it's confusing.
It was cute. Yeah, it was really, really confusing. And that was, to be fair, I was in college and I had only ever played one system before.
Was it a D20 system?
It was a D20 system,
okay.
And it's actually my number 3.
Okay, because see that was the thing is like growing up I played AD&D, which is a pseudo D20. But it's a weird version. And then we switched
Math is hard in that one.
THAC0 is Satan. And
you get really good at math. With
no. The reason I passed most of my like advanced high school classes in math was because of AD&D. I have no illusion that was. We had a friend who he was just a wizard with the numbers in AD&D, and he is now like a postdoctorate mathematician, and it's just like I don't even know what he's doing now, probably solving black hole problems. But like the thing with White Wolf that I think was always the biggest thing that threw people was that it flipped. Like there was a D6 version early on, but then they went to D8, and it's just the way the mechanics work in those systems is just fundamentally different. And the only reason that it wasn't a huge step for us is that, and that's actually going to tie into my number 2, but we had just come from a D6 game. So we had already learned how to play a D6 system when we stepped into the D8 system. So it was just like, oh, okay, it was just more of a learning of, okay, how do we rank up the dice instead of what is it? Because it is a big shift if you're used to a D20 to go to a D6 or D8 system. It's a bit of a paradigm shift for sure.
There are only a few different actual like pen and paper tabletop games that I've played that are role playing games. The only it's technically a D6 game is Fate. I've played the Fate system once.
That's the one with Dresden, right?
Yeah, Dresden Files uses the Fate system. It uses pluses and minuses on the dice. It's not. It's really
I have not played that
for
system.
Kids who don't do math. That's really what it's for.
Because it's all about.
People who are used to it.
That's the one that's all about karma too,
skills.
Right?
Yeah, it's karma and skills points. But my number 3 is actually the very first role playing game I ever played, which was the generic universal role playing system, GURPS.
Oh wow, yeah, GURPS.
GURPS is based on 3.5 as well, but it allows you to have... Yeah, GURPS is a ton of fun because unlike D&D, which doesn't have any mechanics for psionics or guns or any of like the more sci-fi aspects, GURPS accounts for that. So you can build anything in GURPS. You
Yeah.
don't have to be stuck in just a fantasy role.
Though following GURPS, D&D did acquire, and they did acquire psionic classes into
Yes.
3.5.
They did.
And it broke everything.
Late.
It broke.
Yeah,
Like
it
it broke everything. Like all the things, boss, all the things.
Yeah. The very first role-playing game I did and it was me and my one DM, who was actually one of my best friends at the time. He was really adamant about talking to me about all the D&D and Warhammer and all this, like, and whatnot. And he knew I liked to write stories. So he was like, all right, let's do this. And I created this scion named Kree. And Kree ended up taking out every single obstacle before even getting into the room because of him making me too powerful and just breaking everything really quickly, because I like to break things. Anyway. Oh, it's so much. Scions are fun to play if you ever get a chance to. But in number 2, we are up again at the top of the list. Potatoes.
So this one is but number 2, I was kind of split between the Darksiders series, which you guys talked about recently, and had it on the tip of my tongue. It was Darksiders, it was KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic. From Star Wars.
Gotcha.
They're both obviously drastically different with the time frame they were brought out, and the systems are obviously a lot deeper, different ways depending on which way you go with them. But I was going to have to go with the tried and true KOTOR with the Knights of the Republic. It was a really good story. It was fun. It explored a part of the universe, or the Star Wars universe, that not a lot of people, no one really talked about, or no one really. I mean, it was in the books and things like that, but it wasn't really brought to life on any sort of screens until that point.
Right. Yeah, that was the big thing with KOTOR was
Yeah.
they digitized a lot of at the time, the EU, now the Legends.
Right. And so, you saw things about the Sith Wars, and I still remember those, what was the cinematics those cinematics. I was like, can we just make those into a movie, please?
Well,
just
I mean,
make
the new ones, they pretty much are miniature movies.
They were gorgeous. It was absolutely gorgeous, and it was a great story. I have to go back and replay them at some point, if I'm not sucked into Witcher. But yeah, no,
Witcher will do that.
I keep hearing such great things about it, and then the trailer dropped today, and I'm like, well, now I have to go play it because I'm going to watch the show.
Yeah, and so fair warning, the show is going to be based more off the books.
That's
than
what I figured.
The games, because there was a huge argument earlier when they first announced the promo pictures with Roach. They all freaked out, which was really funny. But
look like him.
Well, no, they were mad because Jorah doesn't have both his swords. And that's because because in the book he keeps his silver sword on Roach. He doesn't carry both swords. In the game he carries both swords because in the game you're much more likely to run into monsters. In the book it's actually not that common. And so he keeps it, and the silver sword is what's for monsters. The steel sword is what's for humans.
Right.
Which we'll get in. I'm getting ahead of myself, but it's a great
weeks,
series. But yeah, so like if you know the summaries of the books, you're actually going to be probably a little bit more prepared for what's going to happen in the movies, or not the movies, the series. But yeah, it looks. Oh god, yeah, the trailer dropped and I freaked out.
Bibletron, I don't think you're right on that one. I think Henry Cavill was already a Jim, and he just picked the Jim up more.
Did you miss the Mission Impossible gun loading scene?
Oh my! I was just thinking that too, where he reloads his biceps. Like, you're just like. There was a video somebody made of that where
I know with the shotgun racking.
And all you heard was a. You're just like, oh my god.
It was so well done too. That little clip because they timed it perfectly.
In the actual fight scene, he improvised that. That wasn't.
Oh,
scripted.
did he?
He turned around.
Did you also?
You're just like, and they were like, yeah, we're keeping that.
The best part. Did you see the blooper that someone pointed out where his shirt grew a pocket when he does it?
Oh yeah, when he reloads his biceps,
it loses a pocket or something. Like there's a breast pocket on his shirt, and then he does it, and it's gone. And they're like, he reloaded his arm so much that he blew the breast shirt.
Oh Lord!
I'll send you a link later. There's actually a channel that does analyzing like special effects in movies and things like that. And they did one thing where they analyzed fight scenes, and that was one of the big fight scenes. So yeah, it's really cool. Sorry.
Yeah, and Hex,
No,
Hex is talking about that too. Yeah, he's like, it's like Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool. Like, Cavill really, like Cavill was really excited about getting the trailer for, or getting the part in The Witcher, because
he's a big fan of it.
He's a good actor.
Well, no, but he's also a big fan of that series.
Oh,
like, he's a big fan of that series. So yeah, I'm really excited to see where that goes.
Mm-hmm. It looks good.
Yes, it does. Blue.
Number 2.
Yes.
So this for me, my second one is actually, it's not necessarily because of the game mechanics. It's because of the memories that I have from it, but it's the Star Wars tabletop D6 version. So you have a couple different versions of Star Wars RPG. The most common one right now is the D20, because most game styles are shifting to the D20 because it is a little bit easier for new players to pick up. As we kind of talked about with White Wolf. But the D6 version had very like nuanced things that if you were familiar with the expanded universe of Star Wars, you could actually use that knowledge to get edges on things. Like, you could do things that you technically shouldn't be able to do, but because you like could explain it in the parlance of Star Wars, like, so it was just a blast, and they kind of fixed the loopholes in the D20 system, so we did some just like insane, just nonsense stuff throughout the couple campaigns that we played in the Star Wars D6 one, that we tried to play. I think we started a campaign with the D20, and we like actually shifted the campaign back into the D6 because they were like, oh yeah, you can't do that, there's no mechanics for that. And I'm like, but there was a mechanic for it in the D6, you just used 50 dice. And they're like, yeah, you can't do that. I'm like, we want to go back to the D6 where we can do that. And our game master was like, game master was like, all right, fine, let's just go blow up a world then. And I was like, yes, yes.
That's just, everyone's just like all bouncing in their seats. We're gonna blow up a world.
We're gonna blow up things.
That's no moon.
Yeah.
No. So Star Wars D6 version was just an absolute blast. Nice. Your turn, Green.
Yes, mine is a video game. I've talked about a few times on the show, but not a ton. It is the Fabled series.
Ooh.
It was really my first introduction into video game RPGs that actually had somewhat consequences built into it.
I completely forgot about that series.
Yeah,
it counterbalances the Darksiders' large weapons, because Fable, you have giant armor.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You're walking
and
tank.
You can, and the most dangerous creature in the entire game is a chicken.
Yeah, it is.
It really is, because they flock.
Bird flu's no joke, guys.
No kidding. But I played through it a few different times. Obviously playing through it, going like the good route and then going the evil route and stuff like that. And it was one of the first ones I ever thought, like, hey, my choices really matter in a game. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't terribly difficult as far as gameplay went, because I stepped away from gaming for quite a bit when I was growing up. I played N64. I'm trying to remember the name of the fighting game. It was on N64. I know the music. I can hear the music right now. But my brothers were button smashers and made me very angry, so I rage quit gaming for a long time. Didn't pick it back up until college, and Fabled was one of the first games I picked back up.
It was a fun game because I think it was one of the first games you could actually kind of track your status based off of what your character looked like. Like, you started like either you had that like angelic glow around you, or you started growing demons, and you grew in height, and you were like 6 feet tall, and like you were like a walking space marine.
You had horns and stuff like that. Yeah. A little bit of Hellboy look at the end if you're not careful.
It was. I remember I think I made 2 characters in that game. Where, I did one that was pure evil and then one was pure good, and just to see what would happen.
I think it was Tekken. Now that Raz is saying that,
Yoshimitsu, love Yoshi. My guy.
Looking at it. Yes, Tekken was the game that my brothers made me rage quit for probably 7 years.
That game's not.
I mean that. Yeah, I was about to say that sounds reasonable, actually, from my memory of that one.
Fighting games are surprisingly hard.
They are. And then if you just have a brother who is really good at one move, it's like playing Pikachu on Smash Brothers. Pikachu is such a jerk, and I want to say more explicit than that.
Yes,
but
he is.
Not as bad as me playing Kirby.
Pikachu! Oh yeah, Kirby's
Oh,
bad
my God.
too.
My-
Both of
so-
those make me rage.
My wife plays Kirby, and she is ridiculous with Kirby. It's just
Kirby's
like,
been my guy since the game first came out.
You
Like, the
that's
original
same
Smash.
same
Like the
same with her.
N64
Like
Smash Brothers.
she is so good at the surprise brick drop.
Yep.
Like you'll be fighting someone, you'll be fighting
have to
someone.
Time that. You have
You
to
time it,
that.
and the thing is if you get hit by the corner, it obliterates you.
Yeah.
Like
And you
completely. I'm like, there's no recovery from it.
I still love, what is it, the bat. The bat
Yes,
item you can
yeah.
get. And there's like that wind up and that when you freaking hit somebody and they go whoosh, they fly off the
Just
map.
fly off the
Oh,
map.
it's so satisfying.
Gosh dang. Yeah. That one.
Green, you're saying games that make you realize what you choose and stuff. Makes me think of Undertale, actually.
Yeah, that was another one. I've never played it, but I've
hearing
heard
that I
a
need to
lot
play
about
I
it.
keep hearing
So
about it.
yeah, Undertale is like I have not played it myself, but I've read like the story about it and all, like and the actual game is really really cool. Like how you have to actually play the game to get to the true ending and everything. It's really cool.
I think, what is it? I'm going to shout out another channel too, but what is it, Game Theory? The guy,
I think
I think he's done a bunch of stuff on it, and I was kind of listening to a little bit of it.
I think
don't
Game
listen to this any
Theory's-
farther if you want to spoil it. And I was like, okay, I'll stop.
Because I want to say Game Theory was the one that he actually was he the one that actually got to meet the Pope, and he
I have
gave
no
him
idea.
he gave there was a really big content creator who through some weird connection he actually got an audience with the Pope. And
What?
he basically, when he went, he actually brought him a copy of Undertale because it was Game Theory, because it is the game. It's one of the very few games that the actual story is based around if you make it through as a pacifist. Like that's how you actually beat the game, is you have to make it as a perfect pacifist. And so there's this. Yeah, it's actually that's actually where I got introduced to Undertale, because it was like one of those like just weird articles that pop up. It's like, wait, what? Like, why is this even a thing? And yeah, I remember reading about that, and that's where that's where Undertale even came onto my radar. Which of course then I started looking at it, and it's a really cool game. But yeah,
Nice.
Pope is
That is really cool, actually.
yeah, and he's I think
That's
he's
really
got
cool.
I think it was back in 2017 was the video that I'm looking at right now. So, but yeah, it was just like one of those little like those random stories that pop up.
That's
I
still
can't remember
really
if
cool,
I can't remember if I stumbled across it or if my wife sent it over, thinking that she probably sent it over because I don't usually do that. But yeah, it was just one of those like I'm like, wait, what's going on with this? That's not something those two worlds don't usually interact with each other in my brain.
Right?
Those zombies, yeah. I mean, it's the internet. You do anything on the internet,
Yeah.
you're gonna get crap for it, man. You're not. It's not surprising.
Always.
Oh, you gave him a game. You gave the
Always.
Pope a game. You're a demon. Okay.
Anyway, that actually takes us to our number ones. Your turn.
I am going to stick with my tried and true. I played Fable and I played a couple of RPGs throughout my life though, but none affected me more. And I'm going to encompass 3 different games here. The entire Mass Effect trilogy. And yeah, 3 wasn't the best. I'd say 2 was probably the best out of all of them, and that's covering a very, 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 very wide scope of game. I mean, it's it takes a long time, a lot of commit, and to get through all those games and make those choices and see all the endings like that. But that game, the story in that game was so well done. The villain was perfect. Voice acting was phenomenal. The characters were lovable. I mean, I still tear up when I think about Mordin, freaking the Mordin mission in Mass Effect 3, when you have to either save Mordin or try to save Mordin or kill Mordin, and he's trying to stop the genocide of an entire species. And that's just one story, but it's a story that builds throughout the entire series that you just kind of start. You just start hearing about in the first game, and then by the end of the game, they're tying up all these stories and all these story arcs of these characters that you come to love, and that you come to, you can kill them off in the first game and you'll never see them again. In the second game, you can lose 3/10 of, almost your entire crew, and then you go into the third game with almost nothing. and it's such a well done game, from the music and the voice acting and the characters and the graphics and the game mechanics and systems. Easily one of the best video game series of all time, or if not probably the best RPG series ever made, in my opinion.
What about the story that really drew you in? Because I've actually, Blue is in the same boat, it looks like. The only experience I have with Mass Effect is I played Andromeda. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Chad is real mad about it. It's I've only played Andromeda, so and it's only like
Chad.
a few hours. Only a few hours. That's it.
Mm-hmm. I actually didn't play Andromeda because of just kind of the controversy around it. And I was like, I'm not going to give you my money for a game that I'm not. They said it's nothing like the original, so I kind of stayed away from it. The original, the Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 follows a completely different storyline than Andromeda. Andromeda obviously leaves the Milky Way galaxy behind, and the Andromeda galaxy. The story in Mass Effect is kind of like this sweeping space opera. And you play as a Commander Shepard. You can be male or female. So they keep it really kind of neutral there, so how you choose your character. But you're essentially tasked with becoming the first human special operations for this galactic council but you discover essentially a conspiracy of extinction is coming. The darkness is coming, if you want to put it in Destiny terms. And you later find out that this extinction that is coming is actually this race of sentient robots called the Reapers, and every 50,000 years they come and wipe out the life in the galaxy, so that there is never a synthesis, there's never a war between machines and biologicals, and they do that so that it's too hard to get into here. I know you guys did an extra lore deep dive with Bife a number of years ago. And if anyone has any questions on that, I would really recommend going back and listening to that, because it was the first time you played a game, and you're in Fable and things like that. Your choices meant something and things like that. But in this game, you watch those relationships and those choices directly affect how characters interacted with you, beyond just, oh, they're scared of me. No, like, this would decide whether or not your best friend, stays your best friend, or you can romance a certain character, but you can't romance another character. You can love a character in one game and then completely ignore him in the next, or you can stay with the same character throughout all three games, kind of thing, until this sweeping romantic tale of these two, falling in love, however you want to play it. You can be the player, you can sleep with everybody, or you can sleep with nobody. You can make these decisions that ultimately affect, does this world live? Does this entire race get to live, or do both races get to live? Does one get to die, or does the other have to die? Am I going to actually save the galaxy, or do I let the galaxy burn? And it was so well done, in my opinion, that I can't talk highly enough about the game. It's something I really wish I could. My parents don't play a lot of video games, but I know my dad and my mom, they love good stories. They love good stories as much as I do. And if I could share one game with them, I would have them play the Mass Effect series, because it's so well done and the stories are so well put together, and the writing is BioWare at its finest. And so, yeah, that's it's just, it draws you in. You can't not play it. You have to go and try it at least.
It does relationships well, is what it sounds like,
and not just romantic relationships, but friendships, and your relationship with the galaxy around you.
That's cool. All right, Blue, number 1,
D&D.
Shocking.
You're really shocking. Specifically Forgotten
it's shocking
Realms.
Because it's
specifically for Forgotten Realms, because that was one of the things that really got me into RPGs in general. And I have played D&D pretty consistently since I was probably about 10 or 11. So, in some form or fashion or other, I've pretty much been involved in games or campaigns of some kind. Up until just recently, with having a small child, kind of puts a damper on your free time and stuff. And then this whole podcasting thing kind of takes up some time too.
Sorry,
but that was, it's always been tabletop RPGs have always been a part of my life. And as a person who read a ton of fantasy and science fiction, but I mean, fantasy was really what got me into nonfiction, or sorry, fiction. Sorry. Well, it actually got me into nonfiction too because of the historical influences there. But that just was something that translated really well. And the Forgotten Realms is just so vast that it's just kind of you pick the type of game you want to play at the beginning, and you can change in the middle. It's one of those like really open and free flowing things that has a really good structure to it.
Okay, Blue. We're on similar wavelengths with ours. My number one is also something relating to Forgotten Realms, but I did not ever grow up with a actual tabletop group. I've only ever played a pen and paper tabletop game where I've been the DM. I've never played as a participant.
Oh, okay.
Because my friends, I introduced a lot of my co-teachers to 4th edition, and I love the mechanics and stuff like that, and I've always listened to it and read into the stories and stuff like that, but I never had a group to play of my own, so I ended up DMing for friends, and we played a few different rounds of that. But there is a game that my friends really loved that was Forgotten Realms related, and it was on Tabletop, Will Wheaton's Tabletop, Season 2, Episode 9.
Oh, I love that show. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. I'm really sad that they're not really doing it anymore, but I get it. And that was the episode with Patrick Rothfuss, who is another writer that I really, really respect.
Yeah.
But that is Lords of Waterdeep.
Yep. Lords of Water. Yep. That was more of like a one-off expansion, though, wasn't it? If I remember that correctly.
No. So the board game.
Oh, was it a board game?
It's a board game.
Okay,
it's a board game that is similar to somewhat Catan. It's got like resource management aspects to it, but it also, because you use meeples, you have the European counter on the outside, and it I don't know, it was just really fun because you can play lots of different ways. You can play the very aggressive style. You can RPG as the aggressive style. You can play very intrigue heavy. You can play magic heavy, and you can choose all these different routes to get the victory points to be able to win at the end. So it has that very similar style to Catan, or I'm trying to think, Ticket to Ride also has that.
Right, yeah. Well, and it makes sense. It makes sense being based in Waterdeep. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Oh, yeah. And it's one that I've bought on multiple platforms. Like, you can get it on iPhones. And
they have a digital version? That's cool.
They have a digital version. And I would play that with my friends as much as possible. Now, granted, my wife is not a fan of it because it is very rule intensive, as most D&D games tend to be. And so I have not played it with other people in probably 5 years, but it is still my favorite RPG board game tabletop version of all time. Period. Just that's awesome. That's it. Yeah.
I need to check this out more. Like, actually.
Yeah, Lords. Well, and like I think because I remember hearing about it, and it was ironically it was because it was a board game that I didn't really pay attention to it. Because it's a strategy, right? It's a strategy board game. I think that's what you said, right? Yeah.
Strategy games.
And we didn't play, like, our campaigns, like City of Splendor or Waterdeep was always like, in Forgotten Realms, it's a huge center of events for the Sword Coast, but we never really were around the Sword Coast. We were always more like inland from there.
Oh yeah.
And so Waterdeep was always kind of like, oh yeah, this is happening in that place, but no one really cared. So it was like, right. We never played a campaign that hit Sword Coast areas, mostly because that's where all the predominant number of books for Forgotten Realms kind of gravitates towards the Waterdeep, with the Dritz series and stuff like that. That's all taking place on the Sword Coast, and we wanted to play more in like a free area where we could build stuff without having to, like, because we wanted to keep the structure Faerun, but we didn't want to. It's just something that we didn't
want to change things.
Yeah,
to adhere to. I gotcha.
Yeah, no, and so that's really cool because I know there was they've done a couple of them, right? Because didn't they? I think they translated Ravenloft into a board game, which that sounds absolutely
it's
terrifying.
Different set of mechanics. Yeah, it's different mechanics than Waterdeep.
Ravenloft.
You're right.
It's how long you can go without losing. not if you're going to win.
Right, and Waterdeep is very intrigue heavy.
Right, yeah, that makes
intrigue
perfect
and
sense.
Sleight of hand, and you like fight over who goes first.
Okay,
is one
yeah,
of the
yeah,
mechanics,
yeah.
essentially.
So you,
which makes a huge difference.
so you play as one of the lords of the city.
Yes.
Oh, that is awesome. Okay, okay.
Yeah, it's really.
So
fun.
it's kind of like
really,
it's kind of
really
like a
fun.
board version of diplomacy, then.
Correct.
Ah, okay, yeah, that sounds really interesting.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, all right. End of all of the normal list, and this is something I don't know, Potato, if I prepared you for, but
Probably not.
did you have any also ran? So any other RPGs that you would mention that wouldn't necessarily make your top 3 list, but are important enough where you want to them on the show?
I was actually going to ask you to throw that up there in the chat real quick.
Totally.
It's actually, I'm a massive Firefly fan of that show and the Interstate Firefly universe for forever. And I discovered this, I've been playing it for about 10 years, and not recently, sadly, because it kind of took a bit of a downturn, is the old text-based digital role-playing, like the Mush clients or the Talent clients.
Yeah.
And things
Mush,
like that.
Yeah, Mush is awesome.
There's one out there that's still running, and it's kind of hanging on by a hair's thread. And so I'm going to give it a shameless plug here, and I've been playing it for a long time. Sadly, not recently in the last 6 months, just because of time and diness. I've been playing the same character for probably 10 years on there. Is Serenity Mush. It is a...
I used to play that.
Oh, did you? That's awesome, dude.
Yeah. I did.
If you say your character name, I will probably
I
recognize
honestly
you.
don't even remember. It's been so long since I've been on a Mush client. Like
I play a character named Zanklines, Zanklines, Lines. There you go, Zanklines. And
that's awesome.
I've been playing that game forever, and I'm such a fan of Firefly. It is such a great universe. It's such a creative universe. I'm a massive Joss Whedon fan. And I
just love the funny moments.
Oh yeah, the whole show is great.
So good.
And I'm proud to say that Mush client is still running. It's a little bit on the back burner right now because there were some server side issues and some issues in the higher levels of things that I'm not a part of. But I'll give it a shout out. If anyone's interested in wanting to go in there and create a character and just try it out and learn, the Mush client can be a little difficult to learn, but it once you learn it, it's like second nature. I can go in there now and type a bunch of stuff and do everything. But
yeah,
Mush.
Mush was actually what introduced me to rpol.net, which is a message board variation of it. So yeah,
and so it was just a lot. The game is so much fun, and the people I've made there are friends that I still chat with online sometimes. Friends all over the country, and just watching my own character grow through the stories that we've created in the last 10 or 12 years is watching how my character's gone from what he is then to what he is now, where he has a kid and he's on the verge of getting married and things like that. And so it was cool just having those interactions, but with actual other people. And if anyone's interested, I'll throw Blue the link, and he can throw it wherever he needs to throw it. If anyone's interested and ever wants to,
we can include it in we can put it on the podcast page for links.
I just saw your Mass Effect endings picture. That's
Did you see the additional ones that they nerfed? Yeah. The friendship ending.
The friendship. I just threw that up in chat for you there, Blue. It's but yeah, if anybody likes Firefly as much as I do, stay shiny and you can't stop.
Well, and the nice thing with Mush too is like once you get familiar with one of them, there's tons of them out there. It's like IRC chats.
There's a bunch of Star Wars ones. There's a Star Trek ones.
Ton. I'm trying to think. What was the other one?
There's a zombie apocalypse one I played for a little while. I was like, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah.
I don't even know what we're doing in here.
Blue, did you have any also around?
Yes, I did. So this is a super at the time it was a really not well known game. They were published in 93, and it's by a company called Nightfall Games, and they're out of Scotland. And this game is called Slay Industries, SLA Industries, and it's an urban horror game. And it's just I'm just oh no, I'll send you the link for this. It is probably one of the most brutal RPGs that it makes Shadowrun look calm and tame. And it's a completely different. Shadowrun is its own. Shadowrun has its own level of insanity with it being what it is. This is not in the same kind of genre as Shadow Realm, but it kind of is. There's not a lot of magic in Slay. It's more tech. It's more like urban tech horror.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's god, and the story, the general like story is basically like this weird hodgepodge of cyberpunk horror and conspiracy, and it's just like blend. Take, I don't know if you're familiar with these animes, but like take like Trigun, Akira, Bubblegum
Trigun,
Crisis. Okay,
that
yeah, blend those, like smash them all into one, and then throw Blade Runner in on top of it, and that's kind of that's kind of this thing, and then you have like the overarching thing of like
replicants,
right? Well, yeah, and then you put some Thunderdome in there, and you got a good going on. Like that's what this game was just. Oh my gosh,
that's nuts!
It was just absolutely bonkers, and it was a tabletop, so it was like you get to do just the randomest stuff, and they had mechanics for nearly anything. I'll send you guys the link to it, and I'll put the link for this one too. But yeah, it's Slay Industries. It's a I don't even know. I think they got bought by Wizards of the Coast a short time after they published. I think like 94, 95, and I know that the PDFs of the documents are still around, because I know there's a website called Drive-Thru RPG. If anyone wants RPG stuff, Drive-Thru RPG is where you can get like all the digital PDFs, and you can pay them, and you can like actually purchase the PDF, so you don't have to worry about like.
The PDF, yeah.
Well, yeah, you pay, but I mean, what I mean is you're not like pirating them. You're actually helping. You're actually paying the publisher and all that stuff, which that's huge. Yeah, it's a huge thing. Like these PDFs are, I mean, whatever. I can go on for days about that. But so yeah, Drive-Thru RPG, and it's usually pretty reasonably priced. I think the one that I'm looking at right now, it's like $12 for all the PDFs for Slay Industries.
Nice.
But yeah, it's I want to say it was a D6 mod, but yeah, we didn't actually get to play through a full campaign with this one because it was so wonky, and our schedules, it was the year that we were graduating high school, so our schedules kind of all fell apart. But oh my god, I remember vividly, of all the games that I play, this is the one that like I can tell you like exactly what our characters did throughout the entire game, because it was the most, and it's not like necessarily good things. I can't tell you on the podcast things, but like it's like it just was completely just insane, and it was hilariously at the same time.
I've had similar moments in the Firefly one where it wasn't all just like happy endings. It was like we made some endings that were like, oh, are we actually the bad guy?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, and you're like,
going, what did we do? Oh, it's just like, it's good stuff.
So yeah, that's my also
memories.
Yes, all the memories. All the memories. My also rand is a card game RPG, and it is one that I used to use with my students, called Once Upon a Time, the Storytelling Card Game. And you literally hand out a bunch of cards, which are like locations, hooks, things that are going on, and you're telling a story. You're trying to lay down all your cards and get to your ending card. And the person who can lay out all their cards and the ending card, and it all makes sense, wins the game. So it's a creative, you have to tell a story, and the random cards that you're getting are things like a well, a ring, and so the prophecy has been fulfilled, and the parents were reunited type thing. And so you're cool. Trying, you have to work together. You're working together with the other person to tell the story, but at the same time, you're competing against them to try to finish your ending. So what you say, if you run out of things and have to draw a card, it goes to the next person. And so the next person picks up the story where you left off. Oh, okay. They're telling the same story, but they're using their cards to change up the things to try to get to their ending. It's super fun. Works really well with like high schoolers. That's who I primarily used it with, and it was really good for creative writing.
Yeah, and I can see how that would exactly be.
Oh yeah, it was a ton of fun, and it can go a lot of different ways. There's expansion packs on there that add a lot of different twists and turns. The basic pack is very kid-friendly. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that's going to be in there that's going to be crazy, but I'm sure if you played it with adults, you can find some crazy things to say, I'm sure. But
have you played Super Fight?
I have not. Blue bought it. Blue bought it at Guardian Con, not this last year, but 2 years ago. And we were supposed to
I'm
play
looking
it.
at it sitting on a shelf, and it just you mentioning that game kind of made me think of Super Fight.
Yeah, definitely. Super Fight, I'm trying to think of some others. Gloom was really fun. There's like Werewolf. There's a lot of like card games that are role play. Bang, like Bang. That is a really fun like slight RPG where you have a defector and you have a cop, and the cop's trying to figure out who the defector is in the group, and
Oh
they're
yeah,
killing
I've
off
heard,
people
I've
as you
heard
go.
of that game. Yeah. I've heard of that game.
Those are fun, and you get to like role play physically with everybody else. Kind of, it's RPG tabletop light.
It's pretty awesome.
Like, yeah, it's easy to learn. Not a lot of rules. A lot of fun.
There's no rules.
Yeah, well, I mean, the points don't matter, but it's we digress. But I think that has kind of tied everything together for us for this top 3. Is there anything else you want to say to the fans of role players?
Keep making stories.
Yeah, that's really the big thing. Keep writing, keep making stories, keep experimenting. That's always the
keep
fun
trying
thing.
different voices.
Yes, definitely. All right, so thank you guys for listening. As always, we appreciate you. And remember, everybody likes a list.